There's a particular kind of discomfort that's hard to explain. You meet someone and everything on the surface looks fine. They're polite. They say the right things. There's no obvious reason to feel the way you feel. And yet something is off. Something in your body registers it before your mind can name it. A slight tension in your shoulders. A vague impulse to create distance. A feeling that you want to wrap up the conversation sooner than you plan. And then comes the part that makes it even more confusing. Because you can't justify it. The person hasn't done anything wrong. They haven't been rude or aggressive or inappropriate. If someone asked you to explain why you felt uncomfortable, you wouldn't be able to. You'd probably say something like, I don't know, they just gave me a weird vibe. And then you'd feel slightly guilty for it, like you've been unfair to someone who doesn't deserve it. But here's what most people don't know. That feeling, that vague, wordless, physical sense that something is off, is not irrational. It is not you being oversensitive or judgmental. It is one of the most sophisticated threat detection systems the human brain has ever developed. And understanding how it works changes the way you read every person you meet. The human nervous system is constantly processing information that never reaches conscious awareness. When you walk into a room, your brain is already scanning micro expressions, vocal patterns, postural cues, the speed and rhythm of someone's speech, the degree of alignment between what someone is saying and how their body is saying it. Most of this processing happens entirely beneath the surface. You don't experience it as thinking, you experience it as feeling, as instinct, as that thing people call a gut feeling, which is actually the product of extraordinarily complex neural computation happening faster than conscious thought can follow. And what this system is specifically looking for, what it has been calibrated by millions of years of evolution to detect, is incongruence, the mismatch between what someone presents on the surface and what is actually happening underneath. Because in the natural world and in human social environments, incongruence is a signal. It means something is being concealed. Something is not as it appears. And concealment, in an evolutionary context, was often dangerous. This is why certain people make you uncomfortable without doing anything obviously wrong. Your nervous system has detected an incongruence, a gap between their words and their tone, between their smile and their eyes, between their stated intentions and the subtle signals their body is sending. You can't point to it directly. You can't build a logical argument around it, but you feel it, and that feeling is data. Think about the specific qualities that tend to create this response. One of the most common is what psychologists call emotional inconsistency. When someone's emotional reactions don't quite fit the situation. The laugh that comes a beat too late, the sympathy that sounds slightly rehearsed, the enthusiasm that feels like it's being performed rather than felt. These micro inconsistencies are almost impossible to fake perfectly because genuine emotional responses involve the whole body, the timing, the breath, the slight involuntary changes in the face that happen before the conscious mind can intervene. When these are absent or slightly off, something in you notices, not consciously, but it notices. Another quality is what researchers call instrumental touch, physical contact that is slightly too deliberate, slightly too purposeful. A hand on your shoulder that lingers just a fraction too long. A touch that feels like it's communicating something other than what it pretends to communicate. The human skin has receptors specifically tuned to the quality of touch. And we are extraordinarily sensitive to the difference between contact that comes from genuine warmth and contact that comes from a desire to influence or control. You feel it as a kind of subtle wrongness that's almost impossible to articulate. There is also the phenomenon of gaze that doesn't quite calibrate correctly. Most people instinctively regulate their eye contact in ways that follow social norms. Looking away at the right moments, breaking contact with a natural rhythm that feels comfortable. But some people hold eye contact slightly too long or break it in ways that feel slightly unnatural, and this miscalibration triggers discomfort. Because eye contact is one of the primary ways humans signal both connection and intention, and when it doesn't follow the expected pattern, the nervous system flags it. And then there is perhaps the most subtle quality of all, the sense that someone is managing you rather than connecting with you, that the conversation is being directed rather than shared, that their questions are more about gathering information than genuine curiosity, that their interest in you is instrumental rather than real. This is extraordinarily hard to pin down because on the surface, the person may be doing everything right. They may be asking questions, making eye contact, remembering what you said. But there is a quality of presence that is absent, a sense that while they are physically there, something essential is withheld. And that absence, that withholding, registers as discomfort even when you can't name what's missing. So what do you actually do with all of this? The first thing is to stop dismissing the feeling. This is harder than it sounds because we are socially conditioned to override physical intuition with rational justification. We are taught that fair judgments require evidence, that discomfort without cause is irrational, that we owe people the benefit of the doubt until they have done something concretely wrong. And while all of that is true in certain contexts, it misunderstands what the discomfort is actually communicating. Your nervous system is not making a moral judgment about the person. It is not saying they are bad or dangerous or unworthy of kindness. It is simply registering a signal, an incongruence, and flagging it for your attention. What you do with that signal is still entirely your choice. But the first step is allowing yourself to receive it without immediately dismissing it as irrational or unfair. The second thing is to get curious rather than reactive. Instead of acting on the discomfort immediately, withdrawing abruptly, becoming cold or guarded, simply notice it. Stay present. Pay attention with a different quality of awareness. Watch for the specific moments when the discomfort spikes. Notice what triggered it. Was it something they said, a shift in their tone, a moment where their expression and their words didn't quite match? Getting curious about the signal rather than suppressing it gives you information, and information is always more useful than reaction. The third thing is to trust the pattern rather than the moment. A single uncomfortable feeling in a single interaction may mean nothing. People have bad days. People are nervous. People are dealing with things you know nothing about, and those things affect how they present. But when the feeling returns consistently, when every interaction with a particular person leaves you with that same vague, wordless unease, that pattern is telling you something. Not what exactly, but something. And that something deserves your attention. There is also something important to understand about the people who consistently generate this response in others. In most cases, they are not consciously aware of what they are doing. The incongruences your nervous system detects are often not deliberate deceptions. They are the external signals of an internal disconnect. Someone who has learned to present one face to the world while experiencing something very different internally. Someone whose early life required them to manage how they were perceived, to perform emotions they didn't fully feel, to say what was expected rather than what was true. The discomfort you feel around them is, in a real sense, the feeling of that disconnect. Understanding this doesn't mean you ignore the signal, but it can change the quality of your response. Because there is a difference between someone who is performing incongruence strategically, who is consciously managing your perception for their own purposes, and someone who is simply disconnected from themselves in a way that makes authentic connection difficult. The first warrants genuine caution. The second warrants compassion, though not necessarily closeness. And finally, there is something worth turning inward, because the same nervous system that detects incongruence in others is also operating in you. And sometimes the discomfort we feel around certain people is not entirely about them. Sometimes it's about what they reflect back. Someone who is comfortable with silence makes anxious people uncomfortable. Someone who is direct and unguarded can make defended people feel exposed. Someone who is genuinely present can make people who are used to performing feel seen in ways they're not ready for. So when you feel that vague discomfort, it's worth asking, is this my nervous system detecting something in them or something in me? Is this a signal about their incongruence or about my own? Not to dismiss the feeling, but to understand it more fully. Because the more accurately you can read what your discomfort is actually responding to, the more useful it becomes. Your body has been keeping score of every social interaction you've ever had. It has been learning, pattern matching, calibrating, building a model of what genuine connection feels like and what its absence feels like. That model is not infallible, but it is far more sophisticated than most people give it credit for. The next time someone makes you feel uncomfortable for no reason you can name, don't dismiss it. Don't act on it impulsively. Just listen to it, because your nervous system is trying to tell you something, and it almost never speaks without reason.